He's an old head.
Youngins are really starting to get on my damn nerves.
He's a purveyor of nonsense. He's a Georgia high school coaching job influencer. His favorite Bible verse is Jesus wept. He's the man of constant sorrow, Chris Lamb.
Yeah.
Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast. We're here at the Nike Coach of the Year Clinic in Washington, D.C., and I am joined right now by the Eastern Carolina University Defensive Coordinator, Blake Harrell, who is a native of Franklin, North Carolina. Coach, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on.
Coach, I know you just got done speaking. We're trying to catch you before you got back out on the road. I know you guys are busy, and sure do appreciate you taking the time with us. So just tell us a little bit about like how you got started, your journey, how did you get into all this?
Yeah, I think I wake up every day and kind of pinch myself, and blessed to be doing what I'm doing, and just excited that I get the opportunity to do what I do at a place where it's fans of East Carolina that love football and are passionate about it and care so much about football. So it's been a blessing. But I started out as a high school coach.
Really?
Yeah, just didn't play college ball. So my first year, I went to school at Western Carolina, which is close to my hometown, and the head high school coach asked me if I wanted to coach JV football. So my first coaching experience, I was 18 years old. I was the offensive coordinator for a JV football team running the triple option. Which, oh, yeah. So it was a fun experience, it just kind of caught me and grabbed me right away. And I thought, if I could be a high school teacher and one day be a head high school coach, and that would be an awesome dream and an awesome lifestyle. And so did the high school thing for about 4 or 5 years after graduated college.
You stay at that same?
I was in Raleigh at Fuquay Arena, Marion, North Carolina, McDowell High School. Came back to Franklin later on, and then a guy in the name of Fred Goldsmith. I called him after about my 5th year of coaching high school ball. I said, "Hey, Coach Goldsmith, if you can find a graduate assistantship for me, a GA spot for me, I'd love to maybe pursue that route and learn a little bit more ball." So I love this high school coaching thing, but the teaching and the 8 to 3 job, I don't know if I love that as much.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
And he said, "Well, what if I take what if I was to take a small college job? Would you be interested in coming with me?" I said, "Oh, heck yeah." So, about a week later, he took the Lenore Ryan job, and was able to go to Lenore Ryan. And when we first got there, it was not a very good job. People think about Lenore Ryan now and what they've been able to accomplish. When we got there, we got there in 2007. They hadn't had a winning season since '94, hadn't beaten Carson Newman in 30-something years. And the first year we won 2 games. The second year we won 3 games. And at the time, you could take free classes, as an employee. And I thought, well, I better have a backup plan because this football thing ain't going to work out. So I started my MBA, and I was like, well, at least I'll have something. When we get fired from here, at least I'll have an MBA, and I can go get a real job. And, I guess I got to give up this dream of being a football coach. And, we were fortunate enough to get it turned around. And I think some of the guys that turned that thing around were Georgia quarterbacks, to be honest. Jeff Herron's son was one of our quarterbacks.
Major.
Major, and Reuben Haynes out of Commerce there. But, and then Coach Goldsmith retired after we beat Carson Newman there in 2010. That was kind of his final hoorah. And then 2011, Mike Houston took over, who's still our head coach today at East Carolina. And 11, 12, and 13, we won conference championships. And 13, we played for a national championship. So,
that's awesome.
Went from being a really bad job to the time we left there. It was a really, really good place.
And what did you coach there?
I was the linebackers coach, special teams coordinator, recruiting coordinator, swept the floors, painted the fields. It ain't a whole lot different.
You were like a JV offensive coordinator.
Yeah. I did the coach's laundry. Yeah. I would go over and talk to admissions and try to bargain with them about how to get kids in school and get them more money, and then go over to housing. And, you did it all. And I think when I first moved there, I was jumping from house to house or apartment to apartment. I lived in like 9 different places. And during the summers, they'd let me live in the dorms because I wouldn't have to pay rent.
Right. Like nomad.
Oh, yeah, it certainly was. I lived out of a box. That's about all I could afford.
Yeah, that's right. Can I get a meal ticket?
Yeah, that was it.
Well, it's funny you say that because James and I were talking last night about a lot of young coaches these days. They see the meteoric rise of people like Lincoln Riley, or we just named him because he's a younger guy or whatever, or like Dan Lanning, and they think that well, he was young and he did this and he jumped in. They don't understand the work
Right.
that a younger guy puts in. Or maybe they do, but they think, all right, I'm going to do this for you. I'm a GA for a year.
Yeah.
I'll be a position coach in year 2. Then I'll be a coordinator in year 3. And then in year 7, I'll be a head coach at an
Right.
FCS school. And that ain't really,
Yeah,
that don't happen for everybody.
That's 100%. They look and see on the ESPN, the bottom of the ticker, some guy's contract rolling around. They think that's for everybody. I mean, my first year coaching high school ball was $18,000 starting out. And then I went up to Lenore Ryan after about 4 years in high school ball, took a pay cut, and you're still painting fields and doing laundry and handing out equipment, running the weight room, all those things. And you go to FCS, you have a little bit more support, but, those were some of the best years of my life. I mean, five years as a high school coach, 7 years as Division II, 6 years as FCS coach. So I think what you learn from those places is it takes a lot of people, and it takes everybody. And you better treat people the right way because you're going to need them to help be successful. It takes a village.
And shoving your ego.
That's right. You cannot have an ego at those places.
Or period.
Ain't a whole lot of ego out there when you paint that line on Monday morning.
No, I remember, one of my talks, I talked about being a good assistant coach, and I pick on some of the young coaches about, especially these days, and it's our fault. It's the older coach's fault because we let them get away with it. But I said, you might want to worry about coordinate some of these brooms and these mops in the laundry room before you worry about all this other stuff. But after Lenore Ryan, where did that lead to for you?
Yeah, so Coach Houston got the head job. I think we were getting on the bus after the national championship game, and obviously we'd gotten beat, and I was all down, had my head all down. He looked at me and goes, the Citadel called that they kind of want to talk to me, and when we get back and have a conversation. And I looked at him, and obviously we ran the triple option at Lenore Ryan. It was kind of our secret sauce there, and that was kind of the fit at the Citadel. And we were able to go there, and
what was that like?
It's different, We got there, and you learned a little bit about the military lifestyle that I had no clue about. And obviously those young men don't have to go serve, and young women don't have to go serve, but it's a military school, and obviously if they choose to go serve, they go in as an officer. But they're living a military lifestyle in the barracks and marching and doing different things. So in some ways, it helped you. And those kids knew how to pay attention to detail, and the discipline part was kind of in line there. I always tell a story. Well, I don't tell it as much as our other coaches tell it. We brought a young man on camp. We used to have recruiting visits in January, and we'd try to bring most of our guys on campus before school started back. That way they didn't see, like, hey, you got to be up at 6:30 and you got to have your bed made and all that.
I didn't want to bring this up because this is about you, not about me, but I was recruited to play baseball there, and it was in 91.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, man, this is awesome. The Citadel, that'd be cool. And when they got us up at 5:30 to go for a little jog, and we were standing at parade rest in the little checkerboard, I'm sure it's got a name, but whatever that little pavilion was.
Courtyard there.
In the courtyard. At some point in time, something in my little pea-sized brain went, no, we ain't doing this.
That's right.
This is ridiculous.
That's right.
So I get it. That's a good plan. Don't bring them when they're doing
For
that.
a 17-year-old that's always had structure and guidelines and bedtimes at home, they want to go to college and get away from that.
Yeah, I didn't need that.
And all of a sudden they're going to the Citadel and they still got that, or maybe even more.
I'm sure for some kids that's great.
You know what?
You're right.
We had awesome young men there, and that school changed their life, and all of them left there making really good careers, really good money. But we had a young man come in, and we brought him in on that weekend, and we get kind of the end of recruiting. We're down in Macon at the GACA event on Monday night, and the head coach comes over to me and goes, "Hey, just want you to know he went and visited another school this weekend. He went and visited Charlotte." I was like, "Oh no." He's like, "Yeah, coach." He said they got a Chili's on campus. They got a really nice dorm room. But he said he didn't get to see your dorm. Well, I all of a sudden Google pictures of dorms and send him a picture of a dorm. Well, we ended up getting the young man. I think George Southern had tried to get in on the young man at the time too, and we ended up getting the young man. Well, the picture I'd sent had mountains out the window and all that, so it definitely wasn't Charleston, South Carolina. So,
but Charleston's a great town, though.
Oh, Charleston's awesome.
My fraternity was founded there. That's a great.
And you're
Charleston's a
Pikeette?
cool place. I sure am.
Yeah, me too.
Really?
Yeah. you know, I was a fraternity boy. And
Pistos Chi Filios,
yeah,
my brother.
Yeah, and not by, that was just where the best looking girls hung out. So that's where I thought I should hang out.
I hear you. That's awesome. That's how I got my first coaching job. I was wearing my letters at the golf course. And the guy at Aquinas High School, Mike Laney, he was a pie cap at LaGrange.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, I'm looking for a guy to help me with baseball. And that's all. How about that?
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. So the Citadel in Charleston.
Yep. And
upstairs, 90 Broad Street.
Yeah. I wish we would have, you know, I always tell my wife, she wanted to move out and buy a house, and about our third year there. And I was like, how about we just buy a little condo close to the beach? And, you know, if we ever leave here, we can rent it out. And she won, I didn't, but I wish I would have been better off financially.
Investment property.
Yeah, we would have. That place is blown up.
So after the Citadel, where did your next adventure take?
So I was at the Citadel for 5 years, and we won 2 conference championships there, which they'd only won 2 in the history of the school. You know, so it was some really good times there. And then 2019, I had a chance to move over to Kennesaw State with Coach Brian Bohannon, and just for me, it was just, you know, every couple of years you kind of get a little itch, and I think it was a good opportunity. With Citadel, you have your challenges. And at Kennesaw State FCS program at the time, I thought they had a chance to go play for a national championship. And, you know, I always joke with some guys, and obviously, you know, Brian Newberry was there, P.J. Volker was there, and me and Danny Verpel and Darius Safford and Rico Zachary were all there, came in at the same time because all those guys had gone to the Navy. And we were so on edge about Coach Bohannon's culture and these mat drills he had going on, these morning runs. And we're, you know, Coach Bohannon's laying it out and the standard, and, you know, being very detailed about how we're going to do everything in mat drill, and, you know, how you're going to coach it and how you got to hold the standard. And Danny and Darius finally at the end of it, we get back to the defense room. They look over at me and said, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just going to run around, act excited, and just yell and scream. but I later on told P.J. Volker, we were talking about it one day. He said, yeah, he goes, for the first year, every day was like 4th and 1, just because I wanted to make sure I was doing everything right for Coach Bohannon. And you do. And I think anytime we've been a part of a new staff or you go into a new program, you're on the edge a little bit because you want to make sure you're holding up your end of the bargain.
Fake it till you make it.
That's right. That's right. And then after a while, you get comfortable and you realize there was no reason for that anxiety as you go.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that Coach Bohannon did that was great, that us Georgia high school coaches loved, and Danny V talked about it when he was on the podcast with us down in Orlando, was y'all were real good about putting bodies in every school in the state.
We did.
And that really meant a lot to us because it made you, even little podunk, us, you know, little single A schools, you know, somebody would show up.
Yeah.
You know, we might not, because it was like old school recruiting where now people, you know, they think they're just in Atlanta.
Right.
And we might not have anybody, but we could tell you, hey, look, there's a kid at Peach County.
No doubt.
And y'all be like, oh, we're on them. Yep. Or, you know, who have y'all played this good?
Yep.
You know, who have you seen that we might need to check out?
Coach Bohannon, you know, obviously his dad was a high school coach there at Griffin.
Yep.
You know, Grant Chestnut was on staff, a high school coach. Rico Zachary was a high school coach, you know, been a high school coach. Tim Glanton, all those guys. So they knew the state really well. And that was one of his things, make sure we hit every school in the state and we do a good job with it and we protect our turf. And I think that was one of the keys to success there.
So after Kennesaw, is that when you moved on?
Yeah, I had no intentions of leaving Kennesaw. I just really enjoyed my time with Coach Bohannon and just his mentorship and his leadership and just the way he ran a program and his culture, and was intrigued about learning more from him. And, you know, if I had a chance to do it one day, some things I could take away. And Coach Houston called, had to change the defense coordinator, and called. And, you know, I wasn't sure at first. Then I went up there, and it was a pretty easy decision from there. And just, you know, it was a special place. And obviously they've done some good things in the history of East Carolina. And, you know, where the program was when I got there, it wasn't the greatest, but we've got that thing turned back around and got it going in the right direction. And, you know, I say this, I took over, I think, January 28th. I was hired at 2020. I was there for a month, and then COVID starts. And you don't ever want to go start a new job right as a pandemic hits.
Yeah. I imagine that was challenging, to say the least.
Yeah, installing a defense through Zoom, you know, come to find out that's not the best way to install a defense. So it's all good, though.
But you got to adapt, adjust, and overcome.
That's right. You know, we did some really neat things. We had the Zoom, we had the breakout rooms, and we'd rotate rooms, and we do like our tackling circuit. Well, we do a tackling circuit on Zoom and teach it. And to coach it, we'd rotate rooms and do different stuff like that. And then we would break out and have like a Skelly session. We'd have a practice on Zoom. Hey, DBs, you're going to this room for Skelly. Hey, D-line, you're going to this room for pass rush. And then we'd have an inside run. And it basically was a cut-up. And you go to the Skelly room where our DB's coach might be going through the Skelly cut-up. Hey, here's the 7 or 8 plays of Skelly. Let's go through it. Hey, Warren, what do you have right here as a safety? Hey, Miles, what do you have out here as a linebacker? And I think, you were trying to be as creative as you could be on Zoom and those things. And I thought we did some really good things with that. And it kept our guys, locked in. I think we all needed a different focus point of everything that was going on at the time.
Right.
And for those young men, I thought it was really good.
Provided an escape.
It did. I'm not sure it helped us win games. But
right.
It was really good. And it probably didn't help us win games in 2020 just because we were so far behind. But down the road, it helped establish our culture. And it showed those young men that, the one thing when I showed up there, and this is not anything to do with me, but is those young men were hungry for somebody to believe in them, somebody to care about them. And once they knew you cared about them, once they knew you believed in them, their mindset and their approach and how they went about their business changed. You saw guys that looked like they were beat down, just average football players, to 2 years later, be pretty good football players that took us to back-to-back bowl games.
It's just a universal human thing. It doesn't matter if you're coaching high school or college. If they know you care, and they'll do anything in the world for you.
And the guy that thinks he can't, and the guy that thinks he can. I mean, if you got somebody that believes in you and has confidence that you can do it, then most likely you can.
That's awesome. So how much has the new landscape of college football, because you've been doing it for quite some time.
Yeah.
I mean, how much has it changed from your perspective as a coordinator? I mean, just the recruiting aspect of it. Like, how much different is it for you when you go talk to kids now, or is it essentially the same for you?
Like you said, 1998 was my first year coaching high school football. 2007 is my first year coaching college football. And not only has recruiting changed, but just how you communicate with young men has changed. How you communicate with our society has changed. And you have to embrace that over the years, and embrace of how you teach and how you coach and how you interact with people and how you build relationships with young men. Used to in the late 90s, early 2000s, you could just tell a kid to run through a brick wall and he would without asking. Now you have to give them the why and all, all that, which you should. And it's the same thing in recruiting. Our landscape, NIL, transfer portal is changing, and you better embrace it. And if you better enjoy it, you better embrace it, and you better find a way to be successful with it. And I think if we want to change jobs as professionals, as adults, then we go change jobs. Why shouldn't a 20, 19-year-old be able to do the same? If they want to change schools, hey, you can't blame them.
Well, we're saying we're preparing them for what's next.
Yeah.
So you're right. I mean,
so if somebody offered us more money at, school X, and a whole lot of money, like we ain't talking, a couple $1,000, but a whole lot of difference in money, we're probably going to make a change or make a move if it's best what fits our family. So you can't blame young men for that. You got to look at it from their standpoint and their view, and especially if it could change, their mom's lives or something like that. So you understand, you get it. You may not like it. I do think that we as college athletics do got to get a grip on it somewhat and steer it back in the road. I think, the academic piece, we got to make sure the academics are tied to it somehow, because if we're letting a kid transfer around a couple times and, his eligibility's up and hasn't graduated college, have we really done him a favor? Yeah, we may have got him a few $1,000s for NIL for 4 years, but we didn't provide him with a lifelong career, lifelong
so they're not all going to the league.
No, unfortunately, wish it was just the guys I coached went to the league, but that's the one thing. I think some of that is just talking about progress toward degree. Hey, you can't transfer unless you're ahead of progress toward degree. That way we know one day you will, because we need to make sure the student part of this athlete doesn't get lost.
Well, you talked about wish all of yours made it to the league. Who's the best one you've coached?
Yeah, I think there's several. I think Devontae Delaney, who's with the Bucks, you know, he was special for us at the Citadel. You know, he played press man, and the ball down the field, it was all of a sudden he would be guarding the receiver, and all of a sudden he would become the receiver. And, you know, he had a natural skill set for that. I think he could have been a receiver as well. So he was special. Jaquan McMillan, for us at East Carolina's with the Broncos, plays their nickel. And anytime you need to play, you look up and Jaquan McMillan was making a play. You know, we won several games just because he had a pick at the end of the game, knock down a ball, stripped a fumble at Navy, you know, all those things. He was a gamer. You know, not the biggest guy, not the fastest guy, but he found a way. And both those guys, the way they handled their business, the way they were professionals, was special. You know, and then the other kid that comes to mind is a kid from Camden County, Mike Green, at Forest at Lenore Ryan. Yeah, I think he leads the school in history and punt returns there and the Hall of Fame there and all that. But you know, he could have played anywhere I've been as a safety, and it was with us at Lenore Ryan. And I think he just retired from the Arena League, you know, last year. But he was a lot of fun to watch.
Well, how about the best you've seen that you had to deal with?
You know, I think we've seen some good ones over the years. I mean, the ones that stand out right now off the top of my mind is the guys that most recent. You know,
right.
Tank Dale, he was at Houston 2 years ago, and if you don't get hands on Tank's gonna be running around and catching footballs and making you look bad. The kid from BYU, you know, I think Puka Nakua, I think he's had a really good rookie year. Was a really good player. You know, then quarterbacks. I think to me the quarterbacks are the guys that if the other team's got a quarterback, it makes you hold your breath. You know, Michael Pratt at Tulane. You know, it'd be interesting to see where he goes in the draft. But I think he's just a cool-headed, can run an offense, operate. You know, he may not wow you, but he can run an offense for sure. So those are kind of the guys that pop out. You know, then we go back to that Cincinnati team back in 21. You know, you had Daniel Ritter, tailback got drafted. Both tight ends got drafted. They got a receiver for the Colts. They had two other receivers who were at the combine last year. You know, they had about 8 draft picks off that offense. So you held your breath every single snap that year.
Well, the common theme, you know, with everybody, especially college guys that I get the opportunity to talk to, is we talk about relationships, and you've been able to go back and work for a guy that you're comfortable with and work with, and to the consternation of many coaches in Georgia, there's going to be a lot that are really upset and butthurt that you took one of our best and brightest coaches yesterday or the day before yesterday, whenever it happened. But you are reunited, and it probably feels so good.
Yeah.
With Coach Rico Zachary, I understand you're going to get back together with him.
That's right. Rico is awesome. Obviously, we worked together that year at Kennesaw. And the year we were there, both he had the defensive end and the outside backer, both of them were all conference. I told him, I said, as long as you come produce those same results, I said, we're going to be good now. Well, you'll be all right. But Rico, you know, just from a standpoint of the relationships he builds with young men, the type of man he is, the type of coach and teacher he is, I couldn't be more excited about having him. And
there'll be high school coaches in Georgia that are glad to see him leave, but there'll be a lot of us who are like, man, we lost a really, really good one. I
go to spring practice every year, and especially in the state of Georgia. And you know, I've always recruited Georgia. I think there's a long story behind that one, but there's some really good high school coaches out there, and they do a really heck of a job and can coach at any level in this game, and that's Sundays as well. And I just the guys in Georgia, the high schools and student athletes in Georgia should be blessed to have those coaches working with them.
Well, it's just different, I think. I mean, it has a lot to do with the kids, the communities. You know, some people say that Texas and Georgia are, you know, it's different.
By far.
I mean, the pay reflects that of the teachers and the coaches. And
spring ball, the way you run workouts.
And we get fired kind of like college coaches do too.
There's no question.
You know, if we don't produce results, we'll be looking for another job too. But I just thought that was awesome when we were on the way up here, and Coach Thompson was like, well, Rico's gone.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then, you know, come to find out that relationship y'all had in the past.
Right.
You know, hey, I'm going to get a guy that I'm familiar with and comfortable with. I know what he can do.
That's right. I mean, you're not bringing, you know, you're not going through a set of interviews. And trying to get to know guys you already know, somebody you've worked with. And I always say this, sitting down, hanging out, and having dinner with somebody is one thing, but a guy you've been in the foxhole and been through a season with, and that's somebody you really, really know. And you know how things are when it's 4th and 1 and your tail's on the line and game's on the line and how they're going to react and what their true character is.
Well, Coach, I sure do appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. It's been a pleasure to meet you. I can't wait to hopefully we'll have more interactions as the years go on, and we'll have somebody that's good enough to play for you guys one day. And I sure do appreciate you coming on with us.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and just enjoy following you on Twitter and keeping up with you and all that, and just respect the job that you do and all the high school coaches do in the state of Georgia, and that's really a second home to me there.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.